bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGR Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, how you doing? How you doing? That's it. We're here. Today's Wednesday, December 30th, 2020. We did it. "365 days into the new year. Only one day left. That's it. Our last show of 2020. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everyone listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planets. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? All right, this is indeed our final show of 2020. Tonight, Dr. Stephen Greer is here. We're going to be talking about the impact of his hit film, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. We're going to be talking about 2021. I think he's doing a global CE5 this Saturday. We'll talk about that. And so much to do, and we've got a couple of special guests in front of Dr. Greer tonight, too, as well. I'll be bringing them in. I'll just let you know, at the bottom of the hour, Ronnie McMullen is here. And then at the top of the hour, Race Hobbs. And then at the bottom of the hour, Dr. Greer will be with us for the final 3 segments of the show. It's a full show tonight, and it's the only way to go out and put this mess in our rear view mirror. Okay? All right. It's good to be with you, everybody. I know that tomorrow night is New Year's Eve. I don't know what you've got planned, if you are planning anything. Coronavirus continues to mess with our family. I'm just going to say that. I'm not going to go any further. But I don't know what we're going to do for New Year's. I talk about it every year, about how in our family, right, which is Armenian, Russian, Greek, right? That's the family. And so because of that, from Christmas until like the second week of January, it's a different holiday. It's some kind of New Year's Day, right? It's just, and it goes on and on and on and on. And it's one of the things that we do. And not only us, but the entire community. You are going from home to home on Saturday and Sunday for the next couple of weeks. It's like 3 weeks in a row. And you go from home to home. You sit down. The tables are set. A group of people come in, eat, celebrate, turn around, walk out, go to another home, do the same thing. And whose ever home it is, they are in full production. That's right. in the kitchen, cooking, resetting the table, drinks, and I don't know what's going to happen this year. I think it's all off the table. Every year I go to read, I'm just like, is it over? Is this weekend? Right? Do we have this weekend off? And, but yeah. So I really don't know what's going on. But anyway, whatever you have got planned, do it safe, have a lot of fun. And tonight is our New Year's with you guys. Okay? All right. You know what? Let's just get this thing rocking. We've got a lot to do tonight. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Follow me right there on Twitter. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox. Right there. It's live in front of me. The gifts are flowing. Thank you guys for those. I was watching those tonight during the intro on the show. Hashtag F2B, hashtag F2BQ is Fade to Black questions. Of course, the chat rooms are open. Hello to everybody on Spreaker. Hello to everybody on Facebook and YouTube and UBN and the Bunker Cam and wherever else you guys are hanging out with us tonight. Okay, email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. All right, let's get to the breaking news. Dawn Wells, who played the castaway Mary Ann Summers on Gilligan's Island, died in Los Angeles this morning from complications from COVID-19. She represented her home state of Nevada in the Miss America pageant back in 1959. She appeared in a multitude of television shows, including 77 Sunset Strip, Maverick, Bonanza, The Joey Bishop Show, and Hawaiian Eye. She beat out 350 other actresses to nab the role of the girl next door, Mary Ann, on Gilligan's Island, which aired on CBS from 1964 to 1967. She was 82 years old. Very, very sad news today. Facebook confirmed today that it is closing its Irish subsidiaries at the center of a dispute on profit shifting to avoid taxes in the United States. The tech giant acknowledged the winding down of Facebook Ireland Holdings Unlimited Company amid a dispute with U.S. tax authorities, which claimed the company owed billions in taxes by improperly shifting profits offshore. A Facebook announcement today said that the move was part of a change that best aligns with their operating structure and that the holdings of the three subsidiaries were distributed to its U.S. parent company. Facebook says it has paid more than $11 billion globally in income tax over the past 3 years, and that its effective tax rate over the last 5 years exceeds 20%. I'm just not buying any of that. I'm not buying any of it. But anyway, let's get the show cracking. Happy birthday to today. The Monkees' Michael Nesmith is 78. Patti Smith today, not Smythe, Smith. Patti Smith today is 74 because the night. Man, what a great song, right? ELO's Jeff Lynne is 73. What would be a favorite Electric Light Orchestra song? Telephone Line, Mr. Blue Sky. For me, my favorite album was Out of the Blue. Yeah, just a great album. Tracy Ullman today is 71. Our dead guy's birthday today is Davy Jones. 1945 to 2012, died at the age of 66. Kind of strange. Same birthday as Michael Nesmith, right? Member of the Monkees, starred in the TV series of the same name. His acting credits include a Tony-nominated performance as the Artful Dodger in the original London and Broadway productions of Oliver, as well as a guest star role in the Brady Bunch show and later in the Brady Bunch movie. He was great. He was great in that. The grunge version. On the morning of February 29, 2012, Davey went to tend to his 14 horses at a farm in Indiantown, Florida. After riding one of his favorite horses around the track, he complained of chest pains and difficulty breathing. He was rushed to Martin Memorial South Hospital in Stuart, Florida, where he was pronounced dead of a severe heart attack. Wow. Happy birthday, Davy Jones. On this day in history, 1916, sometime over the course of the night, in the early morning of December 29th, December 30th, 1916, Rasputin is murdered by Russian nobles eager to end his influence over the royal family. Fate or fact? You're not going to believe this one. It's a fact, though. Vetted. In 2008, McDonald's Japan paid 1,000 people to wait in line for the release of its quarter pounder in Osaka. People were paid $10 an hour to do this. 15,000 people gathered behind the original 1,000 at that restaurant due to the fake crowd. And that is your fate or fact. All right. It's our last show of 2020. We actually made it. You know, I start at the beginning of each year. I do the same thing. I do the countdown. As far as I know, we're the only radio show or any television or TV or anything to a radio to do this. But I start off the beginning of the year with 365 days into the new year and wind it down. And yeah, you know, and it's fun at the beginning of the year. It's fun at the end of the year. It's kind of strange in the middle, but it just seems like we'll never get there. And this year it took longer than usual. And I get that, but here we are. This is it. This is our last show of 2020. Tomorrow is New Year's Eve. Tonight, we have two special guests coming up. We have Ronnie McMullen at the bottom of the hour. And then at the top of the hour, Race Hobbs is going to stop by to say Happy New Year to all of you. And then it is Dr. Stephen Greer. So we've got a great show ahead of us tonight. And I am just happy that not only that we made it, but that all of you are spending this time with us. It's very special. And I want to thank all of you for not only sticking it out with us throughout the year, but for being part of this family. Okay, so I salute all of you. And now it's time for me to hit this River Moon coffee. That's a special cup of River Moon coffee because it's River Moon coffee with 2 add shots of espresso. It makes it extra special, extra dark. RiverMoonCoffee.com. All right. Let me hit this coffee again. Tonight is our final show of 2020. And I know that at this point, I'm supposed to go through the past year, you know, and say something witty, say something smart about all of the events that we have endured over the past 365 days. So much has happened that we've probably managed to forget about most of it. Huge, significant headlines that were drowned out and forgotten as the news just managed to get bigger and crazier as the days passed. Sure, there are specific dates that we often remind ourselves of. You know, December 7th, 1941. September 11th, 2001. But this time around, it's going to be the year, a whole year, that we will forever look back on. 2020. In the future, no matter how bad things get, everyone will say, yeah, this sucks. but this ain't no 2020. Bet on it. For those that survived the year, many have not. But for those that have survived, we have so much to remember and be thankful for because we made it. Sure, I get it. COVID is the story that started back in January, right? Shortly after that, we had the death of Kobe Bryant. That should have been the sign of things to come. Then we went through the impeachment of President Trump. We had armed protesters at the Michigan State Capitol. Remember that? Crazy. We had murder hornets. Then there was the death of George Floyd. Protests around the country. Looting, marches. Peaceful protesters getting gassed in front of the White House. Total shutdown of the world economy. Sports stopped. Music stopped. Travel stopped. Restaurants, school systems, all ended or were shut down. We had the West Coast wildfires burning out of control. Defunding of the police. We had the explosion in Beirut. We had the invasion of Armenia. We had the record-shattering hurricane season. The death of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Trump and 25 people in his orbit all tested positive for COVID-19 after shunning wearing a mask, calling it a hoax. We had the presidential debates, especially that golden first one, didn't we? The insane election that went on all year, and the election with Biden as the new administration moving in on January 20th. We have all the claims of fraud. And, of course, the COVID vaccine. And then the death of Eddie Van Halen. Now, everything that I just mentioned was from memory. From memory. That is the craziest year in human history. So much has been forgotten. So much. There was so much more. We had the racism, the divide, social media, censorship, protests all year long in nearly every major city in every country on the planet. And all of it continues as I speak to you tonight. The past year was intense. It was too much. But somehow we made it through. Okay? But not without one last headline. Dawn Wells, Mary Ann of Gilligan's Island, left this earth today. Unbelievable. If you weren't around for Gilligan's Island back in the day, you have no idea about its impact or what it meant to our generation back then and what it means to us today. There is no question about what was the number one king of it all, the de facto standard of television. It was Gilligan's Island. Now, I know you want to say, well, what about Lost in Space? What about the Flintstones? What about the Tonight Show? What about the Brady Bunch? What about the Partridge Family, Jimmy? What about Star Trek? Whatever. It was Gilligan's Island that reigned supreme. Now, even at the age of 5, right? So true. Even at the age of 5, I knew they could have gotten off that island. I knew this. You know, there was the radio whose batteries never died. Right? The endless coconut cream pies. Oh, man. And none of it mattered. None of it mattered. Nobody cared. I mean, even I, at the age of 5, is going, okay, all right, where's the whipped cream coming from? Remember Thurston Howell, the umbrellas in his drinks? I'm like, where's the umbrellas coming from? What's going on with this? But I really didn't care. Did anyone know anything about the show? Right? It was just great television. And that's all that mattered. In the years that followed, we all watched it in syndication over and over again. I can't tell you how many times I've watched each episode, each season of Gilligan's Island. I am 57 years old. I have no idea. None. Remember, the radio was powered by coconuts. I know, right? Remember Wrong Way Feldman? One of my favorite episodes. Wrong Way Feldman went to fly around the world, called him Wrong Way because he took off from the airport backwards. Wrong Way Feldman. You remember those World War II mines that would be floating into the lagoon? I mean, nobody cared. You remember the satellite with the TV camera, and they were going to broadcast, reverse the thing, and the professor set it up and got the satellite running, and they were going to broadcast the castaways on the island with SOS and the whole thing. And what happened? They got tarred and feathered. Something happened, and everybody got covered in tar and feathers. And so they were standing in front of the camera when it finally goes live and it finally lights up. And they're broadcasting back to Houston and NASA headquarters. And Houston see there's chicken people on Mars. Remember that? Nobody cared. That was awesome. Did anybody ever know the professor's real name? Right? What about the skipper? Did you know the skipper's first name? Didn't matter. Remember the coconut shell headphones? Man, the best. Coconut shell headphones. And remember the vines for the cables with the professor? Oh, man. The best. The bestest of them all, though, was their theme song. No question about it. No question about it. That was it. Yeah, Tarzan boy, young Kurt Russell. Yeah, that's absolutely right. But it was that theme song, man. A 3-hour tour. When I was a kid, I never really knew what this meant, a 3-hour tour. And it didn't matter. I would sing along with everybody else, but when it came to that line in the song, my mind went blank. Seriously, I never figured that out as a kid. Just like every episode. Anything that didn't make sense, quite simply, it didn't matter. Nobody cared. It was about the story. It was about the comedy. It was about the escape into the world of Gilligan's Island. Over the years, the professor, the skipper, Thurston, Lovey-Dovey, and Gilligan have all left this earth. Dawn was one of 2 surviving members of the cast. Tina Louise, who played Ginger on the show, is now the last castaway. So tomorrow's the last day of the year. Extended to 366 days because this was actually a leap year. And hopefully it'll be a day without any more bad news. I posted in social media earlier this week that 2021 will be the opposite of 2020. We'll have nothing but growth next year. We'll have nothing but better times. And we will have a positive outlook on the world. This is our future. It's time to put 2020 in our rear view mirror. As I said before, it's a year so sucky, they named it twice. We need to focus now on starting the new year off right. We need to have an absolute positive attitude. Everyone. This is the opportunity we have in front of us. We need to seize the moment. We have to be positive. All right? All right, this is our last show of the year. When I come back after this short break, Ronnie McMullen of Life Change Tea is going to join us. Then at the top of the hour, Race Hobbs is here. Bottom of the hour, Dr. Stephen Greer. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox. You know what to do on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. Introducing the Game Changer blend from River Moon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com. Go Beckley Teppy.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. Getthetea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's getthetea.com. Getthetea.com. The tea that makes you go.
Permanent industrial glue impossible to remove? Not anymore. Because Handyman Formula by D-Bond is a patented chemical adhesive remover. It's used in the building and home maintenance industry, but now it's available for your home use, for your DIY projects. Unglue stickers, silicone rubber, labels, price tags, flex tape, weather stripping, carpet glue, wood glue, liquid nails, even 3M 5200. And it dissolves graffiti. Yeah, graffiti. Handyman Formula by D-Bond works, and it's safe to use on most surfaces. No need to call a professional. Don't get out the pliers and blowtorch. Just apply a little Handyman Formula by D-Bond and wait 90 seconds, then quickly and easily pull the items apart. Get unstuck. Visit dbondhandymanformula.com. That's dbondhandymanformula.com or call 561-575-4200. Handyman Formula by D-Bond.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Our final broadcast for 2020. Unbelievable. We made it. We're here. I want to welcome everybody that is with us tonight, spending your time with our family. So cool. Later on tonight, Race Hobbs is going to join us at the top of the hour, and then Dr. Stephen Greer. Great night ahead of us, and right now, got to end the year right with the one and only Ronnie McMullen from Life Change Tea. Ronnie, how are you, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. How you doing?
I am fantastic, and, well, I'm as good as I can be. How's that? How's that for an answer?
That's a good answer,
now,
and especially with the weird days we're having.
Oh, man. And we had a very special date planned. We were going to go and be a racing team together, and I got COVID.
I was going to watch you pee your pants.
Yeah, man, I got COVID. You know what? That's the only thing that could have stopped me, right? And so bummed about that. But here we are. We finally made it to the end of 2020. And did you make it out to the race?
I did, but you're not going to believe what happened.
What happened?
They canceled the race after all cars were there.
Oh, no kidding.
We went on our time trials and got in the car. We snapped an axle. So then we went and perused the track. And 2 hours later, they canceled the race. And it was the county that went to the gaming commission and said, stop this race, because it was on private property, so they couldn't stop it. Mm-hmm. So they said, we're going to pull your gaming license if you don't stop this race because COVID is overtaking the world.
Wow. And so that was it. Everybody had to pack up and go home.
Everybody lost their motel rooms, their food, their everything, and we went home.
Wow. 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 COVID strikes again. COVID strikes again. And how are you doing?
You know, I'm living the life that is put before me, and it's all weird.
The feeling. Describe for me how you feel, knowing that we finally got to the end of 2020, probably the craziest year in all of human history, right? And we actually got it behind us. Have you ever looked forward to a new year more than this one?
I do look forward to this year, but it has some stigma on it that looks like it's going to be a continuance of 20. So I don't want to rain anybody's parade, but I hope to God I'm so dead wrong on this issue, because I haven't heard positive people or negative people. They're all saying the same thing. 21 looks tough.
Well, you need to hang out with me some more. That's all you got to do.
I think so too.
Well, you know, I posted throughout social media that 2021 was going to be the opposite of 2020, and it took a lot of things for me to make that statement. But of course, my family got sick. I got sick. There's that. There's everything else around me and the world and everything else. That 2021 has to be the opposite of 2020. And we have to look at it that way. We have to.
Well,
we have to.
We can't. Age of Aquarius.
Well, there's that part too, as well.
We entered Age of Aquarius, and supposedly this is the Christ consciousness is going to open up. So if that's true, then you would be dead on, bang on, as they say.
Yes, and I would say that the overwhelming responses to my posts throughout social media have all been positive and in agreement. There's a couple, people that want to be sticking. Oh no, it's going to be bad for 5 years. It's going to be. This is the end of times.
It's the end of the world as we know it.
Right. All right. And
REM said it best.
Yeah, I watched a making of religion by REM. It was on Netflix on this new series, and it was pretty cool. I had no idea that's what the song was about or how it was developed. It was pretty cool. That was a weird segue. Let's get back off of REM.
I like it, though. It's good. It's rabbit trail all the way.
Athens, Georgia. Now, but this is the thing. I am still feeling the effects of COVID 30 days later. I even mentioned to Rita before the show, I'm just like, man, I've got no energy, and I've been fighting it. It could have been a lot worse for me and my family because of you and GetTheT.com and the supplements we were taking before I got sick and during the illness. It kept me out of the hospital, right? And my lungs never got affected. And
that's a good thing.
That is because of the supplements. There's no question about it. If I would have gotten COVID 10 years ago when I was really doing, bad things, I'm talking about drinking sodas all day long, eating the wrong food.
Twinkies.
Oh, man. Well, I still do that, but I only do that because I drink the tea. But I can only imagine what my immune system would have been like 10 years ago.
You want to hear something really wild? So they've got everybody scared to get COVID, okay? And you obviously got it, so, you can say, yeah, this is a scary thing. So when you have fear, when you have fight or flight inside of you, drops your immune system greatly. So just the fear mongering going on and all the bad stuff and politics and blah, 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 and all the stuff. And people really, they don't fear really what's going on as much as they fear the unknown, what's going to happen next. That's what they really fear. And in that fear, we drop our immune system and we become prey to anything, not just COVID, but any kind of flu or any kind of virus. So they kind of got us over the barrel. So we have to change our mind from nocebo to placebo.
You have to do it that way. And I always had that mentality. I haven't gotten a cold in so long that I was getting pretty cocky, Ronnie, right? That, Get the T has got my back. I take all the right supplements and Allison and it's the one that I can't pronounce. Anaxanathin.
Astaxanthin.
Yeah, that one. And of course, the pine bark and the moringa and the tea and everything else that I take. I was feeling like I didn't have anything to fear. Okay, so I didn't have that. I didn't have that fear. When I got COVID, my immune system was as strong as it is, when the virus attacked me and I felt it and it was gnarly. But if I would have had my defensive down, it would have been another kind of party. And I don't want to go through that. And that's why our audience, not only who supports, Get the Tea and they've, walked beside you since you became a sponsor of the show so many years ago, that our audience is aware of that and they listen to you, and they know that they have got their body the best that it can be. And if you don't, get going now. I don't like where these numbers are headed right now, and I realize the vaccine is out there and things may start to turn around in a few months. but you don't want to get this, and you don't want your family to get it. And that's what I felt, that's what I felt the most horrible about, even though that I had it. It's my daughter. It's Rita, right? It's, my in-laws, and I just felt horrible. You don't want that feeling. You don't want that feeling.
No.
And you certainly don't want to be the responsible one that went out there and got it and brought it home to the family. You don't want to be that person. You need to stay up on top of your stuff. What would you recommend there's two recommendations I need. One, for somebody that is just getting started. It's their first time to venture over to getthetea.com.
They're just getting started. I would just say get on the tea. Just get the tea. And we've got a special, obviously, which is buy two, get one free. So it's a $35 savings. It's only going till the midnight on the 1st. So, caught this just about in time to get that special. But basically just get on the tea. And if you're really wanting to build your immune system, then you're obviously going to go to Allison, which is really important. And then I've also got a special, and I'll just kind of let people know it's going to start on the 1st or the 2nd, and that's going to be the probiotic, the tea, and also Coral C. And so that way that you can get kind of dialed up and get built up, because this stuff really works. And in fact, until 1925 with the Rockefeller, all the herbs were really the basis of the pharmaceutical trade. And then they switched over to petroleum products, and we wonder why it hurts us. So we're not meant to have, being 6th grade version, we're not meant to have gasoline in our body all the time. That's for cars. So basically, and what's funny is Rockefeller, obviously in the petroleum business, decided to put petroleum in all these products, but he threw away the books. That's the killer. He threw away the herb books that said this does this and this does this. So we had to really kind of go and fetch stuff. But we're there, and there's a reason God, the Creator put some stuff on the earth for us to be taken care of, and we need to take that as serious as possible, because we're getting bombarded with air and food quality that's not supposed to be.
When I was, I'm going to back this up, maybe 30, 35 years ago. I'm like in my 20s, early 20s, 20 years old. And I used to enjoy, I'm not going to say the name, but use your imagination. I used to enjoy chocolate cupcakes that had a cream filling. Okay? Now, and so
Me too.
I'm smoking a little weed, eating one of these dessert products. And a friend of mine comes up and he goes, "Hey, that's not cream filling." I said, "What do you mean?" As I'm taking another bite, right? "What do you mean?" This is great. "No, it's not cream. That cream is a petroleum byproduct." And I was like, "Oh, man, no." And he goes, "Read the label, man. Read the ingredients." And I'm reading what the cream filling was. And it stopped short of saying gasoline, right? It was just like, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what I was reading.
And some methyl?
Yeah. I never went there again. I couldn't do it. He messed with my head for the rest of my life.
Well, there's a reason, and sugar people are going to be pissed off at me, but there's a reason that when people get cancer or tumors, that the doctors say, "Oh, and by the way, make sure you don't have sugar," because sugar feeds cancer. So what does that tell you? And we all, and people don't know this, but we get cancer 2 or 3 times in our lifetime, and we won't even know it. So a lot of times that people go to the doctor and they go, "I don't feel really good." They're getting cancer, and the doctor says, "Oh, you got full-blown cancer," which it might have gone away, but because we're at the doctor and blah, 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 blah. So long and the short of it is they'll tell you, which is funny because doctors don't have a lot of nutritional training, but they'll tell you, "Oh, by the way, you have a tumor or you have cancer or whatever. You want to stay off sugar right now because it feeds the fire."
Now, can I counter that? Is it okay? Well, yeah, you and I counter everything on every show. So let me say this.
Yeehaw.
I through the last 30 days with COVID, I have been fighting migraines, which I've never had in my life. And I used to make fun of people that would, not fun, but yeah, maybe I did. But when people would talk about migraines because I never experienced one, I would not, they're imagining it or whatever, but I had my doubts on what a migraine was. Well, now I know. And I've been trying to figure out, because I wake up in the morning and the migraine is there. And if I don't do anything about it, it amplifies to the point of just thinking bad thoughts. It's so gnarly. So I've been trying to figure out how to get rid of it. And I've had plenty of time to develop a recipe. And this is what works for me to keep these migraines at bay. I'm just trying to keep it, you know what I mean? Just because it's always there. You know, I'm just trying to stay out in front of it.
You give this recipe live?
I've done it a few times, and this is what it is. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
1,000 milligrams of CBD in the morning, at night. 2 450 milligram Advil prescriptions. Okay? I don't do pharma. I'm just talking about Advil, right? Okay. 2 Advils. Caffeine, coffee, Allison, okay? Allison, anasaxanthin, and sugar. And I do it all.
Your sugar?
Listen. I do it all at the same time. It's like I sit down, I got the bottles, I got the pills, I got that, I got the coffee, and I just slam it all at the same time. And then about 15 minutes later, it eases. Nothing else works.
Okay, let me make your let me kind of dive into your recipe. So most of your recipe, some of it had some of my stuff in there. That's great, but most of the stuff that you were talking about is anti-inflammation. So here's what I would say: is try doing that, because Advil, just so you know, is anti-inflammation. It's also a petroleum product. I, you know, not trying to make fun, but I take it sometimes too. It's really good and it works. But so does the Bioastin, which is a nice little purple pill.
Right.
The Bioastin that I carry is anti-inflammation. Allison will help with inflammation a little bit. What was the other one that you said that you took? You took astaxanthin, Allison, and CBD.
Yeah, CBD.
CBD is anti-inflammation. So if you go, and I've got something that I'm working on right now to add to my arsenal here within the next 60 days, that is a butt kicker for inflammation. And of course, intermediate fasting, if you really want to go into inflammation killer, go to intermediate fasting. We can talk about that sometime. But long and the short of it is, when we get rid of inflammation, I think it has something to do with migraines. Now, I don't know that. I'm not a doctor, but I'm working on that and kind of going down that direction. I think inflammation, massive amounts of inflammation with sugar, that's where I would say your recipe's off, pull the sugar out, because sugar is inflammation. But I think there's something to do with inflammation and migraines. I could be so wrong, but that's kind of where I'm going, because most of the stuff you said is anti-inflammation. So if you added a couple more things that were just heavy markers for anti-inflammation,
right,
I'm wondering if your migraine would go away.
Yeah, it's possible. I'll say this: if you follow the CDC guidelines and what they're suggesting with COVID, they're talking about Tylenol and don't take Advil, right? Tylenol did absolutely nothing for me.
Right.
Nothing.
Because Advil really helps with your muscles and mellows them out. And why? Because it's anti-inflammation. So that's why, and it's liquid. So that's why it goes right now. When you're dealing, and this is the thing about Bioastin. Bioastin gives you anti-inflammation, but it also gives you energy, and it's liquid. So when it goes into you, boom, it's liquid. It happens now. And this is the kicker. If I could have a liquid, on a lot of different pieces of my arsenal, it would be something else. And the new piece coming in within the next 60 days is another liquid. So I'm looking forward to it. But I think it has something to do with inflammation. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I and I'm scrambling, right? I'm scrambling each day on how to figure this out. And I'll say this. I'm going to say this into the camera so everybody can see what I'm talking about. My headache starts here in my temple on my left side, and I can feel the nerve on the outside of my skull
moving.
It's hard as a rock, and I can follow the nerve up to the top of my skull. The nerve, I can feel it, and it tightens up, and it is insane.
The other question I would say too is, do you see a chiropractor at all? Do you believe in chiropractors?
No.
Okay, if you believe in them at all, it would help you. Really.
Well, I have to leave. I have to leave the house for that. I have to leave the house for that.
But if it helps you, wow. Yeah. I mean, and literally, if you find one close by, it's a 10-minute adjustment, 15-minute adjustment, and life could change. Your life could be changed, and it's good for your immune system.
Now, I know that you've got these the 3 T's on buy one get one free. That's pretty cool. You've got the regular. You've got a flavor pack variety, and then you've got the pomegranate all on special.
You buy 2, you get 1 free. You buy 2 of them, you get 1 free. So you're talking about $35 savings. And then, of course, if they put in Fader, into the coupon code, they're going to get free shipping on top of that.
And you've got now all of these specials on the special page, and everybody can go to getthetea.com, and the links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. Don't forget about that promo code FADER, F-A-D-E-R. Ronnie will always give the Fadernauts free shipping. All of these specials on the special page are good until when?
Well, on the specials page, those are always going to be there. But on the front where you have the 3 T's, it's either the flavor pack or it's the regular super tea, because some people don't want the flavors. That ends midnight on the 1st.
So winter health boost, the colostrum capsules, the immune builder, that's
you can still have that.
That's going to be there.
We got to have specials all the time. We got to have that. I mean, people need to save money.
Right. Now we're going to be off the air until Monday. What special? Do you mention something is going to kick off day after New Year's?
Something's going to kick off. Yes, it's going to kick off either the 1st or the 2nd. I think it's the 2nd. And it's going to be a pre and probiotic all in one. And it's also going to be a tea, and it's also going to be Coral C. So you're basically getting your C vitamins with some coral calcium, and then you're getting the pre-probiotic, which is a powerful tool. In fact, I think even the CDC is talking about having probiotics. And when you're talking about biotics, you're talking about life. So you're talking about pro-life. So isn't it interesting that when we take antibiotics, we're saying anti-life?
Now, what is, yes. I've only got 2 minutes, Ronnie. What's the difference between a pre and a pro?
Just as it is. A pre is like some stuff that gets you beforehand, and a pro is during.
During digestion?
Yeah, in other words, you're during as you take it. In other words, before the sickness, a prebiotic is kind of getting your body ready. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I got you.
Pro is,
okay.
It's getting your body ready. So it's like a tune-up. You tune up a car. That way, when you go race it, it rocks.
How, again, getthetea.com. The links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. Don't forget to use the promo code FADER, F-A-D-E-R. You will get free shipping. I got to ask you, Ronnie, we come from the same generation. Dawn Wells, Marianne today. How'd that news hit you?
Yeah, that kind of sucked.
Yeah.
Kind of sucked.
Were you like me? It seems like everybody else. Gilligan's Island was such a part of our childhood, probably more so than any other TV program that was on at the time.
I watched it all the time. I knew them backwards. I could almost mouth what they were going to say.
I know, right?
You're like, I think I watched this one too many times.
Yeah, I know. And did you knew, right, that coconuts weren't electrical. You knew that the batteries in the radio couldn't last forever. You knew that they could have gotten off the island. You knew that those coconut cream pies, and the coconut cream pies that were endless, and the drinks and everything. But it didn't matter to you, did it? Who cares?
No, because we weren't trained to dissect at that point. We were just trained to watch and have fun. Now we're trained to dissect. Everybody be like, how do you have a coconut cream pie when you can't cook? How can you do, I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And where do we get fire from? We can't get off the damn ass island, but we've got fire every day.
Right. I remember back in like 1970, 71 when Thor Heyerdahl with the papyrus boat, the Kon-Tiki, right?
Yeah.
It went from like Gibraltar to the Bahamas, whatever he did, right? With that broken down boat. And you were watching Gilligan's Island, and they're building these rafts, and they would sink in the lagoon. It's like, wait a minute, man. Thor Heyerdahl.
But you got to remember Gilligan's car that he had toward the end.
Yes.
One of the end things.
The golf cart,
Yeah, it looked like a little BMW, So it was a pretty cool car, and he pedaled it,
That was awesome. Oh, man.
I'd give anything to have that car in my garage.
Television would learn. Yeah, I know, right? Television would learn a whole lot if they just went back and realized what makes a show great.
Yeah, like Batman. Forget Batman. It was the car. It was the car.
Well, if you go back and you think about it, Lost in Space was like the space version of Gilligan's Island.
Yes.
Right? You know what I mean? And all of those shows followed that same, and we were okay with that. We were okay. Take us somewhere.
Better than okay.
Yeah. Let us
We
escape.
were happy.
Yes. Even
We
the
were happy.
Flintstones. The Flintstones.
Oh, I was just going to say that. The Flintstones, Fred and Barney, and I love when Fred beat up on Barney. That was just fun.
Loved it. Ronnie, thank you so much, my friend. I love it when you stop by. You've got one of the greatest companies in the world, and you have been with us since the beginning. Thank you so much. Thank you for all that you do and what you do for this family that we call the Fadernauts. You're the best, Ronnie. Thank you so much, and Happy New Year's.
To you too, and Fadernauts, I love you, bro.
You're
girls, and all the good stuff.
The absolute best. Thank you,
Have a
Ronnie.
good one.
Happy New Year. Ronnie McMullen, Life Change Tea. GetTheT.com. The links are over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. The promo code is Fader, Fader. I'm Reel's Jimmy Church. I'm going to take a quick break. It's our last show of the year. I'm going to come back with Race Hobbs. And then at the bottom of the hour, Dr. Stephen Greer. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Again, visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer. Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Race Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. Yes. We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our last show for 2020. Unbelievable. We made it. And right now I'm going to bring on Race Hobbs. And I want to remind everybody at the bottom of the hour, Dr. Stephen Greer. Race Hobbs, how you doing, man?
I'm good, Jimmy. How are you?
Man, listen to them pipes. When I grow up, I want to be Race Hobbs. That's it. That's my goal. That's my goal.
I said the same thing all my life.
Is that right? Is that right? How you guys doing, man? Can you believe that we made it through 2020? Tomorrow is New Year's Eve. Seemed like it would never get here, didn't it?
Man, it's been a rough one. It's been a rough one for a lot of folks, and a lot of people are, and myself included, are going to be glad to wave goodbye to this good round number.
Yes. I keep saying it, but I think I'm going to get T-shirts made. 2020, the year so sucky they named it twice. I think I'm going to trademark that.
You need to go ahead and get me one hot off the press in the size 6X.
Yeah, I'll get you a 6X, man. Custom made.
Hindenburg size.
Now, you guys have been through a lot this year, just like everybody else. Nobody got through this year unscathed. How's you and the family and Robin getting through the holidays?
Well, we had a bit of a scare, to be honest with you. My son-in-law, he's a nurse, and they get tested twice a week at work. And he got tested Tuesday, and he tested negative. And Friday, of course, was the other day that he gets tested, and that was Christmas holiday. So he went in Saturday, Jimmy, and he tested Saturday morning positive.
Whoa!
and he had been with me and Robin all day over here, my daughter, my son-in-law, and both grandkids all day. And, he called me right away. I was the first person he called because he knows that I'm so cautious. Robin and I both work from home, and we're blessed to be able to do so. And my daughter and son-in-law and grandkids live right next door. So we're kind of a really tight-knit unit, and he's the only one really that kind of goes out and gets exposed on a regular basis. And it's been kind of a thing with me to make sure he is ever mindful and ever present, that this is out there. It's not waiting on us. It's looking for us. That's the kind of mindset that I put in my family. And so I decided, Robin and I might want to go get tested. And we talked to several people that said, well, it's not going to matter what you test. If you're not showing symptoms, they're not going to do anything. So we decided to wait. The next day, he started to show symptoms. So, Jimmy, we jumped in the truck and took off to go get tested. And I had to stop 3 times on the way to the test site because Robin got sick to her stomach. And, I had to pull over so she could get sick out the door.
Wow.
And we were just really, at that point, she started crying. She's like, we've got it, and yada, yada, yada. And if I've got it, you've got it. And I literally picked up the phone and called a friend of mine who owns the cemetery where my father, mother, and my 2 sisters are buried, and ordered 2 more plots, so that Robin would just have one less thing to deal with. Because I'm a triple threat, man. I've got heart disease and, diabetes, and I'm morbid obese, and I'm just afraid that if I get it, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be, or it's going to be a wrap for a race. So I was just, dude, it was really tough thinking about, end of life decisions while you feel just fine. And all I could think about was how to try to make it easier on my wife after I'm gone, and the kids, and sitting down and writing notes to my grandkids that aren't going to remember me because they're only 1 year and 1 month old. And those kind of things. Well, the good news is we got tested, and an hour and a half later, we found out we were negative. And so we've been locked up in this house tighter than a drum.
I know you have. It's kind of weird for me. I didn't even know we were going to have this conversation tonight, but let me say this. My reaction to getting COVID was twofold. One, and it was Rita that made me think about this, the suspense is over. Right? Okay, are you going to get it? Are you going to get it? Are you going to get it? Well, okay, so we were able to say, okay, we've got it. That suspense, right? That question mark is done. There was that part. And then the way that it hit me, and as fast and heavy as it came on, that first day and those first 4 or 5 days were hit or miss, man. Your mind, anytime you get sick, like your mind goes into strange places, like you were just saying. And I didn't enjoy that. I didn't, because I didn't know which direction this thing was going to take me. I didn't know. Yeah. I felt so bad, so horrible with these symptoms that you can't help but think these crazy thoughts. And man, it was just rough, man. It was rough. And for those out there that go, hey, it's a scam-demic. It's a plan. You need to stop thinking like that. You don't want to get sick.
I'll tell you that they say that to my face, and I've got something physical to say back.
Oh man!
I'm telling you, this is very real. Yeah, the media has done an exceptional job of BSing the public about a lot of it, but man, we don't know anything about this virus still. 85-year-old man with diabetes gets it. 6 days later, he's out playing tennis. An 18-year-old football player, no pre-existing health conditions, nothing, just right as rain, gets it, and 7 days later drops dead.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And I've heard and read about so many reports coming out of the East Coast where it tends to be more respiratory. You know, it's a lung thing. Out here on the West Coast, it's like a totally different virus where it's not necessarily lungs. It's about joints and pain and headaches. It's weird because it never got into my lungs.
I know we didn't intend on going here. You know, when you called me up earlier, I was so happy that I was able to get a piece of Jimmy Church Radio before 2020 was over with. And I just want to take this opportunity to, before we move on, to just say to everyone who has been personally affected by it, who's had it, who's lost family members from it, my heart goes out to all of you. I lost a mother and a sister to it this year, a month apart. My son-in-law, my daughter have it now. It's nerve-wracking. Jimmy, you had it. Rita had it. So many of my friends. I just want to say this. I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but I don't think this is going anywhere anytime soon. So it's just good for us to all get prepared now. Stop crying about it. Stop worrying about what the news is all saying and everything else. Just do the best you can to stay as clean as you can. And learn to understand that if we have to hole up in our homes for most of our lives for another year or two, that's hardly the worst thing that could happen.
It is, you know, and at the same time, you know, Rita and Diana and I, the three of us, had it at the same time, living in the same house, going through this craziness together. You know, and, you know, knock on wood, we came out the other side. I'm still only 60%. You know, I've been in the same spot for about a week, you know. But, okay, let's move on. But you're right. Don't worry about the news. What's important is you and your family. That's what's important. Just take care of you and your family.
Piece of advice. My son-in-law was with us in the home. I was holding the same babies he was holding, kissing on. The only difference between my daughter and him and me and Robin is we take 10,000 units of vitamin D3 a day. We take 250 milligrams of zinc a day, and we're drinking that tonic water.
Yep.
That helps push that zinc to your lungs.
Yep.
And they don't. They don't.
Oh, interesting.
Nobody at his work has tested positive. None of his coworkers, no one in his office, none of them tested positive. And the only place he went was to Walmart to get some groceries. And he did that, you know, he was masked up and everything normal with that. Of course, you know, you get too close to somebody, you walk through someone's breath and, you know, that's all it takes, you know, but you know, it's never happened before. I was reading some articles about vitamin D3. The video that I watched up at up in Ontario, Jimmy, where this Harvard professor was talking seriously about how they were thinking of closing down Ontario, you know, and making everyone mandatory wear masks and all this. And he was prompting them not to do it. And I remember him specifically saying, scientifically proven that vitamin D3, 5,000 units a day needed to be disseminated to all of our elderly and high-risk people, overweight people, heart disease people, you know, diabetes people, because it had a 76% defiance rate to COVID. And this is scientifically proven. This is proven that, you know, people that have perished from this virus were very low on vitamin D or vitamin D deficient. And they knew this early on and still to this day. So I'm a big advocate of the vitamin D3, 5,000 units minimum a day.
You know, and this is, I'm going to give credit to Rita. She, we already had vitamin D3, vitamin A, and vitamin B liquid form in the house, right? So we have been on that. What is fascinating to me is, people talk about the Spanish flu and everything else. With everything that we know medically today, not only about viruses and how they're, how they spread, but the other side, right? It's the vitamins, it's the things, all the medical science that we have now. Imagine if this would have kicked off 50, 75, or 100 years ago. Right? So it's a different thing. We were able to know about vitamins and how important they were. And I think that the world responded to that. People are taking it. They are taking it. All right, let's get to some UFO conversation really quick before I let you go. Here we are at the end of the year with some pretty big stories in the UFO world. And I want to start with TTSA. With Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon and Steve Justice all leaving TTSA. What's going through your mind right now about the future of TTSA?
Well, it's always been a colorful organization, hasn't it? It's done a lot of justice for us, those of us who talk about this subject, who follow this subject, and it's given us a lot of bone to chew on. And but I think that those of us, yourself included, that have been in the thick of this for as long as we have, and that have and you, I have to give great credit to you, were on this early on, but I think the writing was on the wall. I'm very good friends with John Burroughs, and I've relied on John Burroughs to kind of keep me up to date on a lot of this stuff in the latter part of this whole thing, because I just kind of walked away from them, back earlier this year. And I feel like I saw it coming. You know what I mean? When they got this contract with the Army, and that government appropriations money just starts to kind of flow back there, I kind of thought that they got what they wanted. And, I like Elizondo. I don't really know Mellon a lot, really a lot about him personally. And I just don't know, if they're going to go, start their own thing and maybe try to control the space on their own, or, if the narrative has if the narrative has been clipped. I've always been a fan of the idea that this is nothing more than, the G-men doing the controlling. They're controlling the narrative, and that's just kind of the way I feel. Like, it's just, I think that they got their point across, and I think those that were looking for the money and the appropriated funds to be able to toil in their labs and do their things, and the meta materials and all that stuff is done and done. And so now it's time to, start the shell game all over again somewhere else.
Yeah. When I had said a few years ago, I said, look, before everybody just throws all of their emotions and trust into TTSA, you got to give it a couple of years, and then we'll be able to look back in a couple of years if they are who they say they are. What I didn't expect is in 3 years to have them dissolve. That I didn't see that coming. If they proceed as an entertainment company and they keep it together, that's fine. But I'm talking about a research disclosure project for humanity. I didn't see that part ending.
Yeah, well, I mean, DeLong was out in the open. He was expanded about the whole notion of the government doesn't really have a clear way to explain themselves when it comes to the topic of UFOs and what they know or what they don't know and how long they've known it. How are they going to roll it out? Let's help them. I'm a spokesperson for the youth or whatever, and I'm going to do what I can to try to, you know what I mean?
Right.
But we have to remember that, Julian Assange kind of, he kind of burned the Rolodex.
Yeah.
On the whole game when, all those emails, Podesta's emails got released to the public, and all those people that he had been keeping undercover and behind the, under wraps, behind closed doors, They were all of a sudden all exposed. So the whole game had to be reorganized. So I think they even came out into the light of the day with TTSA, sort of on one foot. And so for them to not make it 3 years, it's really not that out of the ordinary for me.
Now, what did you make of the debrief and that FA-18 pilot's cockpit shot of that object out there in the sky? Now, apparently, it's been out on the web for a couple of months before they published the image. But when you saw the image, what did you think?
It honestly just reminded me of a lot of other images that I've seen that don't show anything. There's not enough there to show. Look, I'm going to tell you this. There is no way on God's green earth that even a real officer in an FA-18 in the back seat, let alone a pilot, are going to see an 18-inch inflated little Mylar balloon when you're doing 300 miles an hour up there or more. You're not even going to have time to get no camera out and take no picture of it either. This thing is like the size of a small seagull or something, and when you're up there in the great big blue, you're moving around. I think that it was, if the guy was taking a picture and just happened to catch a balloon, and it was a balloon and he caught it, yeah, but I just don't see a UFO there. I see an unidentified object in a picture that doesn't equate to anything that is maneuvering around.
How could a balloon, this is the only thing, this is the issue that I have. And I'm very skeptical about all of this stuff, right? So even me, Mr. Skeptic, I've got to ask myself, how can a Mylar party balloon get up to 35,000 feet on the best of days?
That's a good question. But, the sun is going to heat a Mylar balloon. It's going to keep it expanded, keep it full of hotter air, and it probably, would help it grow in altitude. I just don't, that whole Puerto Rico video, I think that was a Mylar balloon. I think that plane was taking pictures of a Mylar balloon while it drove around it, and it made it look like it was flying at high speed. Everything behind it was just zooming by.
But it did fly in and out of the water.
It looked like it did, but I don't know that it did. I don't believe that it did, dude. I think that was just a video anomaly.
And I think the vid has affected your eyesight.
It may have.
I think the vid.
It may have.
I think the Rona is messing with you.
But I have seen things far stranger on video that didn't turn out to be what we thought.
Okay.
But look, if you've got an object that is virtually sitting still and you're flying around it.
It looks like it's doing 150 miles an hour. I agree.
Yes, absolutely.
I totally agree. But an 18-inch balloon, the Batman Mylar balloon theory in that balloon
does look amazingly like it though.
Except if it's 18 inches, for it to be that size, it would be right outside of the cockpit window.
Yeah, it would not be very far away.
Right. It looks in this picture to be that size. It looks like it's hundreds of yards away, if not a mile away. It doesn't look like it's a few feet from the plane.
It's a difficult one.
Now, if it was a few feet from the plane, it would be a blur too. I mean, how could the best of iPhones take a perfectly crisp, clear shot at 400 miles an hour? I don't know.
Well,
now, okay.
If it was that far out in front of them, it looks to me like there would be better pictures if it was larger, because they're going to get closer to it. Or maybe not. Maybe not. But that's not what I just said. Has nothing to do with the truth. It has nothing to do with the truth. The truth is, it's another picture of something we can't explain.
That's right.
That really doesn't show us much of anything.
Yeah. That's right. I mean, the jury's still out. There's no way to triangulate anything. We haven't heard. The only thing that would clarify all of this is the pilot. What did you see? How fast? How far away was it? What were you thinking? Did you circle around it? Was it moving? Was it this? All of those things.
Yeah. I agree 100%. But then I also thought, well, what else could he have been taking a picture of and then caught that? There's nothing else out there. So.
And would there have been, if he would have said, nah, it was a balloon, then why the security report? Why travel through, security agencies with follow-up on this if it was just a Mylar balloon? Because the pilot would say that it's a Mylar balloon. There's no reason to write it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's important. It's important, Jimmy, to remember. Honestly, I think that the truth still stands to this day in the fact that these are rare occurrences. These UFOs are not just all over the place all the time, so that even when we've got 90% of the earth covered with cameras, that we're going to get pictures of them and high definition videos of them all the time now. It's just not, it's more rare than people really have the ability to swallow. It's a rare deal. And when they show themselves, and when, real physical objects that are foreign to Earth in nature, or this dimension in nature, I just think that it's incredibly rare that these happenings take place. And we have the opportunity to take shots of them, video of them, and that sort of thing. So I think that it was a great year in that a lot of these Navy pilots came forward. That made a lot of the conversation a lot more comfortable for a lot more airline pilots and military pilots and officials to be able to, put this stuff across the dinner table now. So it was a good year for, just opening up the conversation. I will say that.
Well, here we go. I've got just 45 seconds left, Race. And there's the chatter about this second image, right, showing a black triangle coming out of the water, apparently next to a submarine, and heading straight up in the air. What do you think we're ever going to see that?
I hope so. I would like to see it, wouldn't you?
I know.
That would be a good one to see. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're going to leak something, leak that. Race Hobbs, you're the very best, man. Enjoy your New Year's. Give our best to Robin and the rest of the family. Have a great time tomorrow night, and we'll circle back after the first.
Absolutely. Same to you and Rita and all of the amazing Fadernauts. Thank you all for your support, and I look forward to 2021 and all the good things that it's going to bring us.
Race Hobbs. Race, Happy New Year, man.
Happy New Year, baby.
That's what I'm talking about. Race Hobbs. All right. I'm going to take a quick break. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be right back with Dr. Stephen Greer. Stay right there.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Old New England Soap is committed to producing the highest quality organic and goat milk soaps available anywhere. We take pride in using the purest ingredients and avoiding the typical shortcuts used by other soap makers. Because goat milk is what feeds your skin, we have formulated our soap to use the maximum amount of goat milk possible, 38%, more than double any other brand. Not because it's easy, but because our soap is always better. We are proud to offer you what we consider to be truly premium quality handmade soaps. What's more, our soap does not contain GMO ingredients, pesticides, sulfates, dyes, artificial colors, alcohol, or petroleum products. Try our new shampoo bar and pooch soap, and be sure to see all of the great scented Woodwick soy candles that burn soot-free for up to 100 hours. Right now, save 15% on your order and get free shipping on orders over $45. Buy now at oldnesoap.com. That's oldnesoap.com. Not available in stores. oldnesoap.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
Telepath is a weekly digital newsletter filled with the latest paranormal news, trending topics, and fresh articles from some of the most popular critical thinkers in the community today. Stay informed on your favorite paranormal podcasts and live streaming talk shows. Interact with the Telepath and upload your paranormal story or pics. It could be featured in an upcoming edition. Sign up right now for the free Telepath newsletter at paranormal.radio. That's paranormal.radio.
Including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Our final broadcast for 2020, and we are doing it in style. With our guest tonight, Dr. Stephen Greer, we're going to be talking about the impact of his new film, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, and what disclosure we can expect looking forward into 2021. Dr. Greer is, of course, the founder of the Disclosure Project, the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, CSETI, the Orion Project, and Sirius Technology Advanced Research, LLC. His National Press Club disclosure event in May of 2001, and the webcast had 250,000 people waiting online, the largest webcast in history of the National Press Club at that time. He has worked for over 20 years to bring together scientists, inventors, and leaders in society to advance new clean technology energy systems. He is also the author of 4 books and multiple DVDs on the UFO ET subject, including the documentary Sirius. He has appeared on CBS, the BBC, the Discovery Channel, History Channel, Ancient Aliens, and the movie Thrive. His last film, Unacknowledged, an expose of the greatest secret in human history, was one of the most watched documentaries of the last 3 years. Of course, the website is ce5film.com, and I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black the day before New Year's, Dr. Stephen Greer. Dr. Greer, good evening. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. And how are you and the family in the holidays? Everything good?
Oh, yeah. We just had our 10th grandchild born in October, so it's busy. It's been a great year in a lot of ways, even with the pandemic.
It's been a trying time for all of us, but to have 2020 now in our rear view mirror, have you ever been?
Amigos,
yes,
yeah.
right. Have you ever been more excited for a New Year's Eve?
Exactly. Yes. Well, we'll be looking forward to this moving behind us and hopefully turning a new page. It's interesting. I don't know if you saw what I sent to you earlier. It was in the news today about the COVID relief bill that was signed last week, having buried in it in this 5,500-page document this mandate to move towards disclosure in the next 180 days. I don't know if you shared it with your listeners, but
I did.
I texted that to you earlier.
Yes, I did, and I was really surprised about. Well, no, I should say more happy about was the way that social media actually chose to pick up on the story. And people started to recognize what was the significance of this. What do you see? I wanted to talk about the film first, but since we jumped here, let's go here. What do you think will be in that report in 180 days?
Well, we already know. I mean, if you look at, I just recently had a conversation with the Brigadier General and another gentleman who had arranged for the whole study, that $22 million study that was authorized through the Department of Defense that went through Bigelow Aerospace. And the conversation went pretty much like this. They received nothing of substance back. They knew they were being blocked from most of the key information. And I explained that this is how the intelligence community works. So they will do a dog and pony show and then report back half-truths and partial truths back to the Congress and back to the president. So we know how this is going to go unless there's an intervention, which is what we're working on. One of the reasons I did Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind is that a couple of years ago, we knew this was coming. It was quite clear when they formed TTSA and the people who were involved, like Jim Semivan and Elizondo and others, that they were going to pivot towards a disclosure, hijack the actual disclosure, and create the false flag disclosure of there being a threat. And that has been the narrative. So we know that that's what is happening and is continuing to happen, including this report that went to the Senate. Now, the inside story from this Brigadier General who retired from the Pentagon and was the right-hand guy to Senator Harry Reid at the time, the majority leader from Las Vegas area in Nevada, was that this report that they were hoping to get was basically put into a cul-de-sac. They arranged it in a way so that there would be nothing too revealing in it, except a lot of vague mentions as well as false information. And I was explaining this to the general, and he says, "Oh my God, I know we've wasted 22 million taxpayer dollars on this." So it's interesting because in this document that was just released, and this little part of this 5,500-page bill that was just signed, is this mandate for the Director of National Intelligence and the other agencies, and if you read it, Signal Intelligence, which means NSA, all of it, to do a report on this issue to get back to the Congress within 180 days. So that's 6 months from now, a little less. And unless there is something that changes, what the expectations are from the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee and other people, then I'm quite certain that it'll be partial truths combined with outright spin master falsehoods. And this is something that, from my contacts in the government, I have a home in Washington and meet with people very often there. We knew it was going to happen 2 or 3 years ago, which is why, after Unacknowledged had over 600 million people see it globally, I very quickly said, we have got to bring out Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, because people are going to need to take responsibility for contact with these civilizations that are interstellar and who are visiting us, and not let it sit in the craziness of government. And that's what that whole documentary is about. By the way, people can see it for free now on Amazon Prime and Tubi and a few other places. So I hope people will avail themselves of that while we can still make it available to everyone.
How much of the report will see the light of day? How much of it will make its way into the public, or will we not see any of it? Will it remain classified?
Oh, I think some of it will be known, but I mean, what the general told me, that even when they were in the SCIF, the Secure Communication Information Facility, in the Senate where classified briefings are held, that it was basically a snapshot from 40,000 feet. And I asked him, I said, were you aware, and was Senator Reid aware, that a really important information was being left out of what they were giving you? And he says, yes, we did suspect that, which is why they did not renew the contract. And this is all inside information. I've never talked about it till tonight. So the situation with this is that, and what we're trying to do, and I have to be careful with my words here, for the last few months, there are some people very close to the Trump administration that have been back channeling the information from the Disclosure Project and what we're doing to the president and vice president. We are very concerned that what is being worked on is a false flag type of disclosure that presents this issue as a threat that will be on the heels of the COVID-19 pandemic disaster. So what I'm trying to do is to be sure that the incoming president, and there's a member of my team who grew up with Mr. Biden, and the outgoing president, whoever ends up taking any action on this, should it happen, are informed properly. Because what we learned, and I had it confirmed to me from people inside the White House a couple of months ago, is that both the president and the vice president had people going into the White House providing them with a very frightening scenario regarding the extraterrestrial issue, that Mr. Trump and Mr. Pence absolutely know that we're being visited, but they have been convinced it's a national security threat. And so I put a group on retainer in Washington to get this information to the president and to the vice president and to their senior-most people. What we're waiting to see is that if they take any action between now and January 20th, and I can't tell you whether that will happen or not. This isn't, literally today I was going back and forth with these folks in Washington. And those people are very senior. They have direct access to the vice president and the president. And as you know, the vice president is the chairman of the Space Council, which under Obama and Biden had pretty much been disbanded, and then it was reformed. And so the vice president traditionally was chairman of that. And so this issue was mostly given to the portfolio for the vice president in the last couple of years. Unfortunately, the same people who went out publicly through the TTSA group or their colleagues were going into the White House, and what was happening with the mainstream media, where they were portraying this as a national security threat and some kind of invasion of our airspace, et cetera, and so on. Something more virulent and negative, speaking of viruses,
right,
was being done inside the White House. So we're trying to fix that problem, and we're also reaching out to the senior members of the Senate and the House about this, because what we're concerned about is that this is what they're stepping the game up on, is to give some official cover to further disclosures that will be presented in a false narrative of threat. And that, of course, always benefits the military-industrial complex and the warmongers and all the, beltway bandits around Washington. But what I'm trying to get the public to understand is, no matter what happens there, this really rests in the hands of the people. Obviously, I have to do more than one thing at a time, but the public needs to understand that the relationship between the human species and these other civilizations really needs right now to be centered in people who are conscious, peaceful, enlightened, open-minded, unprejudiced, to make contact with them. And that's really what the ETs are waiting for. Everybody said, what are they waiting for? I said, well, they're waiting for enough critical mass of humanity to reach out to them and be aware of their presence, but not in a way that puts us on a war footing.
Is this
Now,
the
of course,
message?
people
Well, let me jump in, Dr. Greer, if I may.
Yeah,
Is
sure.
is this the message that you're using the retainer for to get to President Trump and Vice President Pence? Is it that verbiage?
Yes, well, there's several. Part of it is the basic information. Then it's also explaining how they've been deceived,
right?
Including, for example, they are being told, and so is Senator Rubio, who's chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee. I know for a fact, I know the people who are in there doing this and who are very high up in the party, the Republican Party, as well as the Democratic Party in terms of, Dick Durbin of Illinois, Senator Durbin. And what I'm being told is that there is a consistent spin towards negativity. At the same time, they keep asserting that we don't know how these things operate. For example, you'll see that the TTSA group has had a man from, I'm blocking on his name right now, from the Lockheed Concourse saying, well, we really need to study this more to see how these things operate. Meanwhile, the people I have on my team have been working directly on man-made UFOs that are launched out of the high desert of California and other places frequently. And there is an entire classified Air Force, as it were, with these sort of technologies that are so-called anti-gravity systems and propulsion systems. But that's not what they're being told. They're being told, and this is very important, that we don't have that. Why? They want to be sure that the leaders do not know that those covert assets exist. So when those assets are used to stage an attack or an event, they can all blame it on the quote aliens. And I've been told this very specifically. This is a very big, chessboard that's been spread out here, unfortunately. And these guys have stepped up the pace. This is why in 30 years of me being involved with this, I don't remember, I briefed Clinton CIA director in December of 1993. And this is the worst, the most dangerous, the most fraught period I've ever seen in terms of them launching through the mainstream media, through external groups like TTSA, and inside the White House and inside up on Capitol Hill, this false narrative.
You and I this year, we've done lots of interviews together, and we've also done a few things outside of Fade to Black that the audience may not know about. But we have certainly watched this year together develop. But did you anticipate on the night before New Year's, you and I being on the air and talking about TTSA possibly pulling up stakes and folding it up? Did you see that coming earlier in the year when you and I were talking?
Oh, yeah, I knew that about 2 or 3 years ago. In fact, I have people who are inside the intelligence community who told me when that whole operation launched that it was on a tick-tock to extinction. And so, yes, I knew that. In fact, I said as much about 2 or 3 years ago when that first emerged. So none of that is surprising at all. Actually, it's all anticipated because that needs to be backed down where they stand up this more official channel through the Congress and through the White House. So this is how the sort of acculturation and desensitization and propaganda machine operates. So no, this was completely anticipated. In fact, I have an email from a rather senior CIA official saying exactly that.
The future of TTSA, because of their position, and I'm going to speak very directly here, from me looking from the outside in, that they were trying to control disclosure and control the narrative. If that goes away, where is that information going to start to flow from?
It's going to start flowing from these reports. Yes, what I'm saying.
Right.
What I just sent out today, that was first broke on Fox News, and then it's gone through social media. This little buried gem inside this COVID relief bill that's 5,500 pages. Is that it's on a launch, a 6-month launch, where they're going to, unless the public intervenes and unless we intervene also inside the system, which is why I'm working very, very hard on things. I can't really talk about a lot of details because I'd burn all my bridges. But inside, both the outgoing administration and the incoming administration, as well as on Capitol Hill, to try to give advice and information that isn't based in all this fear mongering and sort of ramping up to conflict. Because, for 25 years, I've spoken very openly about the fact that, and of course, Werner von Braun on his deathbed, the guy who invented the rocket, for heaven's sakes, stated on his deathbed to Carol Rosin that, in fact, they were going to have all these different wars, and eventually the trump card they would play would be that there is an alien threat that we need to unite the world against and fight. That has been the long-term 60-year agenda that they have been building up to. And unfortunately, it looks like, unless there's an intervention by humans, by us, not by the ETs, that is the path they're going to stay on. So we have to, really, I think everyone listening needs to understand that they need to do two things. They need to help us get to the right people who are in government if they have those contacts. We need the right whistleblowers to start coming forward in larger number. And we need to make our CE5 contact teams. And there's an app that's called CE5 Contacts you can get to train yourself in all the techniques to make contact with these civilizations, and they work. In fact, a couple of days ago, Demi Lovato and Kesha, I think her name is, we're doing a podcast together talking about this. And I'm really trying to encourage people from all walks of life to get involved, but also through some of these influencers in social media to get the information out, because we really need to reach what we talk about in the movie, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, this 1% effect, where 1% of the human race goes into higher states of consciousness, but actually takes direct action to be a person who makes peace and contact with these civilizations, because in consciousness, the field of consciousness, that will shift the other 99%. And we really need to do this because we're running up against this launch, and it isn't going to happen. They've already pulled the trigger, is what I'm telling you. This thing is coming down the tracks where, the sort of the trial balloon that they did through the mainstream media and TTSA and the Tic Tac sighting and the Navy jets, that was just to get the mainstream media to start talking about it. Now they're going to do this bigger project where it'll be an official investigation. And of course, whatever they release to the public on it are going to be controlled leaks with this very specific threat narrative attached to it, which could drag the entire planet into a war footing if we're not careful. So I think that this is what I've known about for a very long time, that we've talked about. You've heard me talk about it for 20 years.
Yes.
I think we're now watching this unfold right before our eyes, but people shouldn't be fatalistic. This is actually all in play. All of it's in play. And so the actions each of us take in 2021 can determine the outcome. So the outcome is indeterminate, but it's going to be a better outcome if there are more people who act in an enlightened, peaceful way, but also who take very specific direct action. People should be writing their members of Congress and senators saying, we're aware this is going on. You need to get information from the Disclosure Project. You need to get honest brokers in there who can guide you through this. And actually, I have offered to this Brigadier General and the consulting group who's doing some of this with the Senate to do that, so that they get some accurate information and perspective and not half-truths and cover-ups. Because I know that that's what the $22 million we as taxpayers spent, the general was very specific with me in saying that it just did not, and they knew that they weren't getting the truth out of that. So, this is how the intelligence community operates. They'll set up something that looks like they're going to put out something and come clean. In reality, there's one part truth and 3 parts disinformation, false information, spin, or outright lies. So like this narrative that you keep hearing, that gee, we don't know what these things are. We don't know how they operate. Well, this is utter nonsense. And, the comical thing about this, Jimmy, is that if you look at the Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, and also Unacknowledged, we have a letter from Ben Rich, who wrote the book Skunk Works, who was the head of the Lockheed Skunk Works, the top secret, top aerospace engineering outfit that works on a lot of these covert systems. And it was a back and forth letter between Ben Rich in 1986 and one of his friends. And his friend had written and said, are these UFOs ours or extraterrestrial? And the head of the Lockheed Skunk Works writes back in his handwriting, signed, and on his letterhead, we have it. It's in the book, Unacknowledged. Go read it. And it says they're both. They're extraterrestrial and ours. And so that was 86. And they had been around for 30 years before then. Now, of course, 86 is, we're looking now up, 34 years ago, more than a third of a century. So you can imagine the kinds of refinements that have gone on in those energy and propulsion systems, but also weapon systems. And here's the part that's very, very risky, is that because of the sort of doubling factor of technological research and development that happens every few years, with the kinds of money that have been going into classified research in this area, black budget stuff, unacknowledged special access projects, what you have now are systems that, to most people who are in the Pentagon, the White House, and the Congress, never mind the American public, they are capable of launching an event or having events happen and totally make it look like it was, quote, the aliens did it, when it isn't.
Yeah, I'm nervous about that.
It's going to happen if we don't stop it. It's going to happen.
I'm nervous about that. And there's one other thing. I've got 30 seconds before the break, so you can answer this quickly. Sure. Why not invite Marco Rubio to a CE5 evening? Right?
Well,
why can't that happen?
Well, we might, but I mean, we have to first at least get a baseline of understanding, what we call a fund of knowledge and perspective. Because look, there are people who've been going up there now for a long time, providing really wrong information that have brainwashed our leaders. So we have to. We're not starting at a blank slate here. We're starting in the hole, and we need to fix this problem. And that's why, I'm working with some really great people on both sides of the aisle who understand what's really at stake here, and we can just hope and pray that we can reach the right people and so that they're not fooled by this nonsense.
Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, this is our last broadcast for 2020, Dr. Stephen Greer. We are doing it right. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Stay with us. More with Dr. Greer when we come back.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal God, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to GetTheT.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's GetTheT.com.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from River Moon. Just click on the River Moon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend. Let's face it, you've always wanted to do a sky watch and see your first UFO. Today, it's easy. Just get your own HP7 3B Cobalt Jimmy Church Edition night vision goggles from Hoffman's Optics. This is the same U.S. military system that I use, featuring a Generation 3 blue phosphor image tube. That's right, it's blue, not black and green. This is the only blue system in the world, and it's waterproof, lightweight, combat-proof, simple to use, and ready to go. Hoffman's Optics helped create night vision sky watches, and now you can see what everyone has been talking about each night from your own backyard. Just call 760-231-9929. That's 760-231-9929. You can click on the banners on our site or visit UFOnightvisiongoggles.com. That's UFOnightvisiongoggles.com. Go back, Lee Tappy.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRAradio.com.
When you're in the house for longer periods of time, you can see them flying or running across the floor. Ooh, yuck. They're unhealthy, gross, and disgusting. Bugs. I loathe bugs. We keep a clean home, but occasionally bugs show up. Well, I found something that is tougher than bugs. Orange Guard. On contact, it kills hidden bugs, including ants, roaches, and fleas. Plus, Orange Guard is a residual repellent. All of the ingredients of Orange Guard are on the FDA generally recognized as safe list. Orange Guard may be used around food, humans, and pets. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Orange Guard, available at orangeguard.com, Whole Foods, and Ace Hardware.
Telepath is a weekly digital newsletter filled with the latest paranormal news, trending topics, and fresh articles from some of the most popular critical thinkers in the community today. Stay informed on your favorite paranormal podcasts and live streaming talk shows. Interact with the Telepath and upload your paranormal story or pics. It could be featured in an upcoming edition. Sign up right now for the free Telepath newsletter at paranormal.radio. That's paranormal.radio.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can follow Dr. Greer at Dr. Stephen Greer on Twitter. We've got all the links up. And, of course, the website is ce5film.com. And this is our 2 days away from New Year's Eve, but our last show of 2020. And Dr. Greer, the million-dollar question is the obvious one. You're there in Washington, D.C. We've got one administration moving out, another one coming in. What can we expect with disclosure in 2021 that will be different with the new administration?
Well, I don't think we're done yet with the current one, and this is the next 3 weeks or so until January 20th. There could be quite a few surprises coming. So, I have my sources who give me direct information from inside the White House and who have been, very reliable. for example, they alerted me to the resignation of the Secretary of Defense 3 days before anyone in the world knew it. So that, so what I'm hearing is that things are still very much in play, even in the current administration. So let's bracket that for a minute. Now, in terms of the new administration, we do know, a lot of people don't remember this probably, that the incoming president had been chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And we had provided a briefing to him and a briefing document back a number of years ago around the time of the Disclosure Project. He then, of course, subsequently became vice president for President Obama. And so, he certainly had been made aware of this issue. The question is, will his team move in the direction of what every other president has done, and that is either go along with the secrecy or go along with putting it out there in a way that is xenophobic, terrifying, etc. We don't know yet. And so, what we're trying to do is, with the contacts we do have to the current administration, is to get them the same information and perspective that we're doing for the outgoing. We've also provided that information to the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin. So the people on my team have direct access to Vladimir Putin, to the incoming president, outgoing president, and to key members of Congress. So what we're trying to achieve is to get these various leaders informed with the truth as opposed to half-truths, and to give them a perspective. So I wrote a draft speech that's gone with the briefing document for the incoming president, the outgoing president, and Mr. Putin, that sort of frames the issue in a hopeful way, in a way that discusses that we need to have a peaceful presence in space, that we keep weapons out of space, and that we have an initiative where the Space Force that the current administration has formed is turned into an agency for preserving space for peace and making open contact with these civilizations a safe arena, and create a safe arena for that to happen. Now, I think that's completely achievable, frankly. I know people go, really? I go, yeah, it really is. But it can't be achieved if the people who are in leadership positions, the only information and perspective they get is a false one or a partial truth one. And so this is why, some people, I disappear out of public eye for weeks and a couple months at a time, but I've been sort of overwhelmed with this, to be quite frank with everyone, over the last 3 or 4 months. But we're doing the best we can with what we have. We can just hope that, we're able to get this information to them, because the incoming administration is going to inherit what's in this bill, this COVID bill, that mandates this report in 180 days. So from the time Mr. Biden becomes president, he'll have less than or about 5 months before that information, which is probably going to be designed along the lines of what we were seeing TTSA do, but through an official channel through the government. And, we have to be sure that our leaders aren't manipulated. Let me give you one example how what the stakes are here.
Sure.
Some years ago, I was asked to brief one of the generals who at the time was head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, General Patrick Hughes, and he was a 3-star general. He asked me and a couple of my military advisors to come to the Pentagon to brief him, because they knew we had a lot of information from hundreds of top secret witnesses, that we had interviewed over the years, over the decades. But I found that the reason we were called in there was because the general had tried to find out information on this subject and had been blocked. And what it meant was that, and he admitted this, he had no operational readiness. What does that mean? It means that if something were to start happening that looked like a UFO event, he wouldn't know who it was. Was it China? Is it Russia? Is it what is it? So he was in an information vacuum, even though he was one of the top intelligence, in fact, the top intelligence official in the Pentagon. So this is dangerous because what you have people who do know about this issue, who are part of this cabal of sociopaths, because you don't get into that system unless you've been cleared to go along with the agenda of secrecy, endless war, etc. And then you have the people who may be in charge of a major agency like the Defense Intelligence Agency, who knows nothing if they're not one of the chosen ones that they've deigned to give a briefing to. So this is what happens consistently. But what that means is the members of Congress, the president, people at the Pentagon, and other officials would be caught flat-footed with a false flag type event. Now, in 1997, and this story I haven't told very often, we did something after I had sort of, we discovered that the Clinton administration wasn't going to touch this issue with the 10-foot pole because they were afraid to push on it. So we had these initially private briefings from members of Congress, and it was in D.C. in April of 1997. Now, at that meeting, the day before that meeting, we all gathered, and astronaut Edgar Mitchell was there, and the first initial dozen or so of these military witnesses were there. And one of them was a man who had been on an interagency committee back in the 70s, and this is what he said, I'm paraphrasing, but pretty close to what he said. They had a system set up in the early mid-70s where you could push a button and there would be deployed all these objects that look like alien spacecraft that could do all manner of havoc. And he said literally everyone from the president on down would believe it was ET. So that, he said, had been in place for quite a while before he got there in the 70s. So I think that what the public has to begin to realize is that knowledge is power, that all of us trying to get the truth about this out would be dispositive, which would be protective from us being victims of a surprise event where our leaders get stampeded into doing something stupid, like when we went into Iraq after 9/11 and Dick Cheney and his minions concocted that there were all these weapons of mass destruction there, which everyone knew didn't exist. So I think that, of course, $2 trillion later, and God knows how many hundreds of thousands of people dead, here we are. So I think we have to be proactive. We have to take action, both on the fronts of educating our leaders and the public, but also informing our CE5 contact teams so that there is another side of humanity, a peaceful, enlightened, conscious side of humanity being shown to these civilizations. And they really need to see that from us.
With I've got two questions. I'm going to try to get them both in. This year, President Trump a few times was asked about UFOs, skated the issue, right? But for a sitting president to have that question laid out in front of him, I was very surprised to see things get to that level. If President-elect Biden is confronted again by Fox or somebody else with the same question, what do you think his response would be?
Oh, I think he'd brush it aside because that's what Obama did also, and that's what they're told to do. And one of the things people don't understand, everyone thinks that the president is some omnipotent figure. In reality, they're very vulnerable to who's around them, what they're providing. As Truman said, and Bill Clinton repeated it, the White House is the crown jewel of the federal penitentiary system. So people have a very incorrect understanding. For example, just because a president may be briefed on a subject doesn't mean he has control over it. People conflate those two things. So there could be a partially true, partially false briefing that a leader receives, but that doesn't mean that these black, unacknowledged special access projects are actually going to be responsive to a presidential order. In fact, they would not be. So they view themselves as above the law and a power within their own right. And this is, of course, something that we sort of begin to discuss in the documentary Unacknowledged, which, by the way, is also on Amazon Prime and some of these other sites like Tubi. But what the public needs to really understand is that most of these people in Washington know less about this subject than most of your listeners. And that lack of knowledge is very dangerous, because then the only people who normally get access to these leaders are the foxes guarding the hen house. These are the people who are professional disinformation agents and, frankly, liars. So this is very dangerous in a democracy, because what it does is it basically negates the power of our officials and makes them all very vulnerable to whoever is in the system to give them information, because they have to work through intermediaries. So what I'm trying to do, and I've been doing this for a long time, but we've really picked up the pace in the last 3 or 4 months, is to get this information to people, because we know what's being launched. I got a heads up on it 2 or 3 years ago. The reason we crowdfunded, and I want to thank everyone who contributed to CE5film.com. I think we've raised about $915,000 to make the documentary and get the word out about it. And we have a goal to raise a couple $100,000 more, but we haven't met that yet. Is that if we don't reach enough people with this message of what the truth is, and we leave our leaders and the public vulnerable, they'll be able to pull another Iraq War / 9/11 stunt, but on a much larger global scale. So, the future, everyone's so passive, but they need to understand this is not the time for passivity. This is a time for leaning into the wind and charging forward in a positive way, putting up true information and taking good action, and particularly this 1% effect, where the studies in quantum physics are quite clear. When you reach 1% of coherence in a quantum field experiment, and this is true of consciousness even more so, it shifts the entire other 99%. And so if we can come together and do this as a public, and this is why I've been welcoming people like Demi Lovato and other celebrities who've been putting information out about Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, and particularly the CE5 Contact app. That's the name of it, CE5 Contact, is that it trains people, but it also has a feature where if you're in a little town in Arkansas, you can see who is in your area, who is in the system, and then message them and form your own team. So we're trying to create as many, we really need about 70 or 80 million people doing this globally. That's 1% of the population. In America, it's about 3 million people. So that's what we're trying to do on a grassroots basis. But everyone can also be sending the Disclosure Project information to their members of Congress and their senators. There are a lot of people on Capitol Hill, frankly, very aware of this, increasingly aware of this issue, because it's been in the mainstream media for the last couple of years quite a bit. But they're all being provided as much more disinformation than they are information. They're given more falsehoods than they are truths. And this is, of course, exactly how, unfortunately, quote unquote, good counterintelligence works. It's, you basically put a little bit of truth that is around the sort of like poison pill, but inside the poison pill is the poison. And that is how they operate. And it's really time that the public, hold our officials accountable for listening to them about this issue now that it's going more and more mainstream.
Now, how do you see the false flag alien invasion playing out? What would the tech be behind that? And the only reason why I'm asking directly is I think it would only last the impact of it for a few minutes. Once people start shooting up in the sky, right, and they're not shooting down actual alien craft, then the impact would be short-lived if it's some kind of holographic projected image. What tech would we use for a false flag alien invasion?
Well, I'm sure they have I know what they have.
What do they have?
They have operational UFOs, things that look like ET spacecraft of all shapes and sizes. that can be deployed and that have onboard systems that are weapon systems. They have electromagnetic warfare devices that they can deploy that would make planes just drop out of the sky. I have a man who worked in an unacknowledged project in the technology management office who described in great detail how we took down most of Saddam Hussein's Air Force, and it wasn't through dogfights and shooting them. It was by switching on this satellite system, and all of his Air Force, they would clear the airspace of our assets, and they just dropped out of the sky and crashed. A lot of people don't know this, but that was a satellite deployed system, very classified. And there's an updated version of it that was launched a few years ago, and that was developed at the Marshall Space Flight Center down in Alabama. So, I have, almost 1,000 people, 900 and some people like that who provided me documents and information on this. So we know that there's a whole spectrum of systems that are not holograms, but real technologies that could be deployed to look like, hell on wheels. So I think that the only way that can be countered is that the people in the Pentagon who aren't read into this issue, and the politicians and the public, all of them, know that capability exists. And by the way, that's why the people going into the White House and into the Senate Intelligence Committee meetings, as well as in the mainstream media from folks like at the TTSA, consistently say, we don't know how these operate. It can't be our technology. It must be some foreign thing. They always make that point. Why? Because that is the heart of the deception, is that if the public and our leaders don't know that these technologies have been in development since the 40s or before, then it's very easy, frankly, to deceive somebody because they don't know. It's like, is it what Ben Rich said? Is it what are these UFOs? Are they ours or are they extraterrestrial? And of course, Ben Rich very correctly said they're both. Some are ours and some are extraterrestrial. But if you only think that they're alien and these things start doing mischievous things, all right, these objects start doing mischievous things, then everyone's going to leap to the assumption and the conclusion that it's alien and as opposed to man-made. So that is one of the reasons why in every one of those press conferences, in all the statements that have come out from Marco Rubio, Senator Rubio, the Senate Intelligence Committee chairman, and elsewhere, they go, we don't know what these are. We don't know how they operate, because the people going up to the Senate and to the New York Times and CNN are saying this as sort of a mantra over and over again. And it's not only a lie, but a damn lie.
Right.
Because by putting that out there, it preserves the element of surprise. So that if they pull the trigger on a false flag operation, everyone's going to think, well, it's got to be ET, right? Well, no, it doesn't, because they're not being truthfully told the whole story. So what I've been trying to do is I'm literally sending schematics and images of what the Skunk Works have developed, what Northrop Grumman has developed, and other aerospace giants that are classified aircraft. We have a huge archive on this. And so what I'm trying to say to them is, don't be tricked and fooled by something that happens when many of these events that have been, in the past, we can prove have in fact been man-made objects. For example, everyone in the UFO world knows about the Cash Landrum incident. You've heard of it?
Sure.
Do you know that was a mishap by a human-piloted craft?
It seems that way. I mean, the more that I have looked at case.
We have direct testimony of it.
Right.
Direct testimony of it.
No, I'm saying what was released to the public and what we know about it, it felt like it could have been our technology without knowing any inside information. Well, let me ask you this before we get to the break. Are you suggesting that the Tic Tac was not ET, and that may have been a false flag type of operation? It was our own technology, backwards engineered or not?
Yeah, it was most likely from the Lockheed Skunk Works. And the aerospace people I work with have confirmed that. Now, the flyboys, the Navy jet pilots, they wouldn't have been read into that. And to them, it's a UFO, right?
Right.
Because, see, this is the danger of secrecy. If people don't know they're going to make assumptions that are false. So for anyone to study this issue at all, they got to know the sort of kindergarten level of this is that there are two classes of things zipping around out there. Some are ours, some are extraterrestrial. And if you don't know the distinction between them, you're going to be fooled. So that like the lesson day one of kindergarten. But you have people who are not getting that information. They're being told the exact opposite. That, oh, we have no idea how. This is why I was so upset when the TTSA guy who had been the Lockheed Skunk Works
Steve Justice.
Yeah, repeatedly said that. And he's either the least informed person in the world on this subject, or he is a professional counterintelligence liar. Those are your two choices. There's no other choices there. You're either uninformed or deceiving people.
Let me ask you this. I've got 3 minutes before the break. If a false flag alien invasion or incident happens, is this a worldwide incident? And if it is, what other countries are in on it with us?
Well, I mean, as I've said many times, the organization that is running these unacknowledged projects is global. It's not just U.S.
Right.
It's always been global. So it could be global, or it could just be one event anywhere that gets a lot of press attention. For example, 9/11 happened in two places, basically three if you count the Pennsylvania crash, and that was New York City and Washington, the Pentagon. But it became a global event, right? Galvanized the whole world. So particularly when you have the media willing to take basically dictation from the intelligence community. You know, one of the interesting things in the movie Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind was when Daniel Sheehan, the civil rights and constitutional attorney, said, look, when I was doing the Pentagon Papers, we saw a document that listed 42 people who were the senior editors of the major media around the world that were all on the payroll of the CIA. And this is not a conspiracy theory. This is a fact. And so the media, that's why they covered all the TTSA material so much and won't cover the Disclosure Project, because the Disclosure Project goes, quote, too far. I've been told this by editors. It goes too far in exposing the truth. But partial and half-truths are very dangerous.
Let's take our break right here. Dr. Greer, fascinating conversation. We've got so much more to do. We'll get it all in this next segment. And I want to remind everybody that, yes, this is our last broadcast for 2020. We are doing it the right way with Dr. Stephen Greer. When we come back after the break, I want to talk about disclosure, its definition, and the impact of close encounters of the fifth kind. All that and much more when we come back. Stay with us. This is Fade to Black.
You are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black Blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Again, visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
The older we get, the more important it is to stay active and healthy. I exercise regularly, eat right, but recently some new aches and pains have really put a cramp in my routine. A good friend recently told me about Angioprim. She said Angioprim is the original liquid oral chelation supplement, helping people since 2003. Chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, calcium, and cholesterol in veins and arteries that may cause blockages and lead to unexplained pain. Research shows the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that may help promote good cardiovascular health. After a few weeks of taking Angioprim, my pain was gone. Now I'm back and more physically active than ever. Find out more. Go to angioprim.com, ANGIOPRIM.com, or talk to a trained consultant. Call Angioprim right now, 954-882-7221. That's 954-882-7221.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, the planet. Our last show of 2020. And our guest tonight, Dr. Stephen Greer. Great conversation tonight, Dr. Greer. I want to just back up a little bit before we move forward. With the public, are we going to deal with like a War of the World situation with H.G. Wells, or it would be hopefully more sublime? What would the reaction be like?
Well, unfortunately, I'm afraid it'd be the former, and there'd be a great deal of panic because, it's interesting. Robert Kennedy Jr. Did a video not long ago, and he was talking about how during the Nuremberg trials, his propaganda officer was asked, how did you actually pull this off? He says, fear. We just created one thing after another that induced fear. In that fear, people take leave of their rational selves and their spiritual selves. They just want to feel safe, and they give all the power to the state. And it was a very interesting sort of show that or video that Robert Kennedy Jr. did. That is, of course, what happens is that they will set up a situation, create fear and panic, and then exploit it. Okay, so that is how demagogues and people who want to have a great deal of power, whether they're religious demagogues, political demagogues, military dictators, they always do that. So that would be the objective of it. And this is what Werner von Braun, who invented the rocket for Adolf Hitler, warned about in the last months of his life. I think that the problem is the public has very short historical memory. And, we move on with our lives after something like 9/11 or World War II or the Holocaust, and people forget the big lessons. And I think we need to remember the lessons of history so that we don't repeat them. And one of the big lessons is don't give in to the fear and panic. Look to what the actual truth is. And most importantly, become an ambassador from humanity to these civilizations and find out for yourself. Because ultimately, they can only get away with this kind of trickery and manipulation if people are not informed and don't know. And that's why, I said earlier, knowledge in the Vedas, it says knowledge is the great purifier. It's knowledge is power. But if they keep people ignorant, including our leaders and the general public, and people are only getting their information from mainstream media and big media sources, then it's very simple to manipulate the masses in whatever direction they want to go in. And unfortunately, we're even seeing this happening with big tech, where the technology companies have begun to, in social media, ban and shadow ban and block differing opinions, even if some of them are odious opinions. I think that there is a problem with the means of communication being corrupted by people who take on a false narrative and think they're doing the right thing when they're not. So we have to all be vigilant, is what Eisenhower said in his last speech before he left the presidency. But we're at the military-industrial complex. It takes a vigilant and informed citizenry, as he put it, to maintain democracy and freedom. And I think this is a very important point that people need to think about as we move forward. I am still working very hard to try to see if this freight train coming down the track of this sort of fake disclosure, this false disclosure, can be averted. And I think it can be if we can get the right information and evidence to the right decision makers. So that's what I'm working on a lot. And we need people's help to do that. And that's why people's contributions help a lot, because some of these outfits we have to put on to help us do this, they're not all doing it for free, frankly, to be honest with you. So people wonder where, some of the revenue that comes in from things we're doing, that's where it's going, because we've got to get this done. And if it doesn't happen, we have to move this out of the hobbyist field of ufology to something that's extremely serious and done very well.
You just brought up disclosure, and for so many, the vast majority of not only the community but the world, disclosure to them is the head of state, the president of the United States, stepping up to a microphone on a live feed. We're not alone. There's that side. For you, when it comes to disclosure, what would have to happen for you to sit back and go, that was disclosure? What is it that you would expect?
I would expect the numerous leaders in the world to issue a statement and make a speech similar to what I've drafted. And a version of it was released a couple years ago, actually, to the public, if you follow my social media and email chain. And what it would say is, we're not alone. We've known this for quite some time. It's been kept secret, and that was a mistake. And we want to bring this forward now. And the message should be hopeful and should say that we have amazing technologies that we can begin to move out to the public that would fix the environmental problems of the planet, as well as poverty around the world would be ended in a generation. And we are going to start a global initiative to peacefully make contact and increasingly open relationships with these civilizations. That is what it must be, if it's anything else, if it moves in the direction of, well, there's some that are good and some that are bad, and we need to have war in space and weapons in space, we're done. I mean, because none of these civilizations that are interstellar are going to play that game. So, we're going to just be shadow boxing ourselves. So I think that it's very important that for the future of this planet and the human species, that this be handled very wisely, which it has not been. The secrecy was a mistake, and many people I've spoken to who have been involved in those programs admit that. I remember Senator Barry Goldwater, who ran for president in '64 against Johnson, and then John McCain took his seat. I was sitting at his home in Paradise Valley in Scottsdale back in the 90s, and he said, excuse my language, he said it was a goddamn mistake then and a goddamn mistake now that this was ever kept secret. So this is, the opinion is very strong on that, but how do you bring this out? Well, if it's brought out in a way that is fear-mongering, we're going to really throw the whole world into a state of fear and panic, much worse than the COVID-19 crisis. Some of the things that have happened with COVID, I think, are some of the overreaches of secrecy, of panic that have been induced, I believe, is a social engineering experiment to see to what extent they can control the masses.
I agree.
And it's a lot of it's very abusive. It's a very serious virus. It's particularly bad for people in certain demographic groups who are elderly. In Canada, 80% of everyone who's died have been in nursing homes and rest homes. So why aren't we protecting those people properly? And in America, we've tested 1 million college students or more. 70,000 were positive for COVID, 0 deaths. So we're not deploying our resources properly. I'm not going to go into that for any length, but some of what's happening seems to be a way to see, let's do edicts from on high, create enough fear, and see if the public will go along with it, whether it's scientific and makes any sense or not. So I think that is a really bad precedent. And I think that they're watching this. The intelligence community is watching that to see if that could be learned from for doing the next phase of sort of this global dominion, this domination around a sort of a totalitarian control of the public. And I think that anyone who cares about the future has to be concerned of this emergence of what has been rather covert totalitarianism becomes extremely overt, where it becomes a more overt system of totalitarianism and frankly, fascist.
Yeah, and we found out the power in the immediacy of social media because the reaction was global in a nanosecond, right? And that's a powerful, powerful tool for those out there that want to use it to realize how effective it is. I wanted to ask you this: when how do I say this correctly? When disclosure starts to leak out, and it's I don't want to say this in a negative way, but when disclosure leaks out, is it a situation where governments now have to answer questions about possible lying with what they knew in the past? Is that something that is going to push things forward instead of being able to come cleanly?
Well, the question presupposes an honest and free press and media, which is not the case. So in a perfect world, the fourth estate, the media, would actually be doing their job. They're not. This was very interesting. In the mid-'90s, early mid-'90s, I was up in New York, and I was at one of these salons. All these highfalutin people come, and I was there presenting this issue. And the UN Secretary General's wife was there, all kinds of people. And what was interesting, after we're sat with this elderly gentleman who had been on the board of Time Life which of course became AOL, Time Warner, and then CNN. But he said, look, we have all, he was talking about the media, we've all become, and I'm quoting, scribes taking dictation from the right hand of the king, meaning these big, powerful interests. He says, there is no free press. And he was very blunt. Schwartz was his name. And I went, yes, I understand that. But he gave me granular details on this. And I went, well, this is really bad. So the public, it's sort of like the public believes the fiction that if it's in the New York Times or on CNN or even allowed to go viral on social media, that it's true. And that isn't the truth. So like a lot of the information I put out has been shadow banned. We've had things taken down, blocked. It happens every day. I have a whole team of people trying to fix this every single day. So I think that the problem with the public is that they sort of have believed that, tell a lie, tell it often. It's very Orwellian. Oh, that there was a land of the free. We have a free press. If it were true, they'd know about it. So your question assumes that the media that most people get their information from would actually pursue the right questions, when in reality, they're going to cherry pick what they're going to say and ask. So now, in terms of anyone who was to be, as this becomes more and more mainstream, the only way they can explain the criminal secrecy, which is what it's been, is criminal, would be to say, well, the truth is so terrible. We were protecting you from the horrible alien truth. So that's the fig leaf they're going to put on this criminal enterprise known as the Majority Intelligence Committee, MAGIC, and all the unacknowledged special access projects. So, some years ago in 1999, I wrote a paper called When Disclosure Serves Secrecy. People should go to our website, SiriusDisclosure.com, look that paper up, find it, because it's very prescient. It talks about everything we're seeing happening right now. It was written 21 years ago.
I look at it like this. I want to talk about your last two films. Unacknowledged was a primer for those out there new to the subject, and it allowed them to flow into CE5, which is definitely hard hitting. You need to see one film for those outside of the community I'm speaking to, and bring in the masses with Unacknowledged and then CE5. Has the message been effective? And if not, what would you have done different in CE5?
Oh, it's been very effective. And that's why, it's the number one, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. It's the number one on iTunes, on Amazon. It's trended very high on Amazon Prime. And it's attracted a lot. I mean, I got a message from all manner of walks of life, from scientists to military witnesses to the general public, but also some of these celebrities who, like Demi Lovato and others, who can really help get the word out. And the reason that's important is, I have a certain number of social media followers, maybe 1 million or something. Demi Lovato's got 100 million. All right. So that's how you reach this 1% effect. And so one of the things we're talking about is doing something with a number of these influencers where we go out into the desert and we have, 8 or 10 of these people who are very well-known public figures, and we do a CE5 together, and they're putting it out on their social media. And that pulls in 200, 300, 400 million people. So we're actually, when all the lockdowns and things, can be lifted, that's what we're going to plan to do.
And what about the next film? Are you going to take things to the next level? Like I said, Unacknowledged, the primer, right? CE5. Now you're graduating high school, right? Getting into the heavy stuff. What's the next film?
The next one that has already been, it's in development, and it's going to be the largest one of all, and it's going to be a tour de force of the last 100 years of the secrecy, but specifically the exotic technologies. And, I refer to this in the other documentaries. I use the term the lost century. We're 100 years of lost conscious evolution, social evolution, and technological evolution. So the world that we have is a faint shadow of what it should have been, but also can be very quickly if we come together to bring out this next generation of science and technology that is really the heart of the secrecy. The heart of the secrecy isn't the ET issue. It's the science and technology story. But that requires an entire feature film and possibly a whole series. We're thinking of doing something like the disclosure, where we would have the disclosure files, where we would have, a 10, 20, 30 part series that would dive into all this stuff deeper and deeper and deeper. Because I think that the appetite in the public is ready for that. And there are enough people who now, the silver lining of the sort of disinformation that's come out through the mainstream media on the UFO subject is that a lot of people are aware of it now, and a lot of people know it's real and they're taking it seriously. They may not understand the fine details. So there's a big appetite, and I know that the big streaming platforms like Netflix and HBO and a lot of the others have been reaching out to me about this, about doing a whole really high quality in-depth series. But the next one is going to be very much focused on that, so that people understand what's at the heart of the secrecy. But the beautiful part of it at the end will be, here is the world that is waiting for us. It's sort of like when Colonel Corso was told by the ET, and the Colonel Corso said, "What's in this for me?" And the ET said, "A new world, if you can take it." It's beautiful. So the world that we can portray in that film will be a glimpse into what we could have had decades ago, but which can be also created in the next few years. And I think that that's the part of this is a very hopeful message, is that when you think of some of the most intractable problems we have, biosphere damage, the whole environmental problem, the polluting of the oceans, the dying off of many species, global poverty, et cetera, and so forth, these are all fixable, completely fixable, but you're not going to fix them with a tanker of oil. So it's an enormous challenge. And it's also a big part of why the secrecy was imposed, because whether it was the 40s and 50s or now, nobody wants to see several $100 trillion in assets that are public utilities, oil, gas, coal, nuclear power, whatever, go the way of all flesh, go the way of royal typewriters or the horse and buggy. But that's what's going to happen. So, but if we don't, here's the issue. If we had done it 60 years ago, the transition would have been much easier. Now we have many more billions of people dependent on a 1800s energy generation system that is choking the life out of Gaia, out of the planet. So we have to get that fixed as well. So this is going to be a very deep dive into it, including part of it's going to be a big expose of what the Lockheed Skunk Works and Northrop Grumman and Boeing and other big contractors for the U.S. government have, and we will show the actual craft and design plan. We have all this, but most people aren't going to go through 200,000 pages of documents, but we'll distill it down. It's a daunting task. It's easier if you have very little information and do a whole documentary or whatever around 3 pieces of information and then a bunch of blather. But when you have the kind of archive we have, it's actually more difficult to put that out there. But that's why I think my vision for this next project would be sort of a pilot feature film documentary that would be the pilot for a whole series, 10, 20, 30 part series. And that's what we're trying to get organized. Of course, my energies are rather absorbed right now with this disaster, with the transition and the outgoing president and the incoming. But that's really what I think needs to happen next. And we're going to be relying on the public and all your good followers to help us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Greer, for taking the time tonight to hang out with us on this very important evening. But I need to extend tomorrow night. Have a great, safe New Year's. Our best to Emily.
You too.
And if anything kicks off between now and January 20th, you're back on the show, and you can say, "Jimmy, I told you so." There you go.
Yeah, I might give you a heads up if I get, I have my ear to the ground, and you wouldn't believe the people who are texting me who have direct access to the president and vice president and the stuff going on. And what I'm telling people is everything's in play right now. Everything. So say a prayer for peace. Say a prayer that our leaders are guided to do the right thing for humanity. And then we'll have a fantastic 2021.
Thank you so much, Dr. Greer. And we'll circle back after the new year. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your night.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye. You too. Dr. Stephen Greer. And, of course, the website is ce5film.com, and you can follow Dr. Greer on Twitter at Dr. Stephen Greer. Before I let you go, I want to remind everybody that there are suggestions right now that our credit scores might be based on our internet history in the near future. The same way banks use data like income to judge credit eligibility now is how websites could use internet search history in the future. Researchers studying the relationship between finance and tech found that data from your browsing, search, and purchase history could be used to decide your credit in the future, which is why I use virtualshield.com. You can go right now to virtualshield.com/fade to black. Click on the link and go and get Virtual Shield VPN. You can also click on the link in the video description box below right now, and you can check out right now. You can get everything for life, 50% off discounts. I am your host, Jimmy Church. What a great night on the air. We are heading into New Year's weekend. I want everybody to have a great, safe, fun, and amazing New Year. And we will see you right here on Monday with Fade to Black. I want to thank Dr. Stephen Greer. Again, ce5film.com. You can also follow Dr. Greer on Twitter at Dr. Stephen Greer. Everything is up in our Twitter feed and the sandbox. I am your host, Jimmy Church. What a great night. What a great year. And here we go. We're kicking it all in to 2021. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Camarion. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2020 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Bye-bye, 2020. Say hello to 2021. Everybody have a great weekend. Have a safe New Year's. We'll see you on Monday. It's time to Fade to Black.